Maryland's new governor, Wes Moore, has been on the job for only about 100 days, and he's already being talked about as a potential presidential candidate. And speaking of Democratic primaries, there could be a crowded one in his own home state after longtime Maryland Senator Ben Cardin announced Monday he'll not be seeking re-election and will be retiring after his term is over. Earlier, I spoke to Governor Moore about that open seat. Maryland Governor Wes Moore, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you here in person.
Great to see you in person.
You didn't have to go as far as some governors do to get to Washington, but it's good to see you regardless. You are here with us the day after your state's senior senator, Ben Cardin, announced that he's going to be retiring at the end of this year, won't be seeking re-election. Yeah. It immediately sparked what's going to be a pretty darn crowded primary, potentially, among like-minded Democrats, but who haven't had an opportunity like this since earlier this century, at least, since it was last open Senate seat. Let's tick through a few questions related to this. I think I know the answer to this one. I'm going to ask it anyway. Are you interested in running for the Senate?
Not at all.
Okay.
I remember someone said, when did you decide you wanted to run for politics, get into politics? And I said I didn't. I wanted to be governor.
Okay.
So I love my job, and I'm excited to keep doing it.
Executive, not legislative. Get it. You have a preferred contender, though, or potential successor.
No, I think this is going to be a very spirited race, and there are a lot of people who are actively looking at it. I think right now we're going to see who actually gets into the race. We'll see what kind of campaigns people are pulling together. The thing that I know, and as the governor and the titular leader of the party, we know that we need to have an organized and a substance-based race. Who is going to be the successor for Senator Cardin, and I'm excited about being able to support our nominee as they go into next fall.
Will you tolerate a crowded primary, or should there be some conversation among the potential successors about not letting it get too sprawling, too expensive, frankly, at a time when Democrats need all the money they can in a lot of other places to make sure they can hold on to seats?
Yeah, I mean, I believe in the democratic process. I believe that if a person believes that they are the right person to be able to help lead the state as part of the federal delegation, then people should explore and people should run. I also know that I believe that we have to make sure that this is organized. We have to make sure that this is above board. And the thing that I will not be okay with nor tolerate is if people are getting into the race and their behavior or the race that they're running becomes destructive.
Any thoughts on whether your predecessor, Larry Hogan, should consider a run? I mean, that is probably the most formidable Republican, at least statewide these days, were he to get in.
Well, I don't think he'd take my political advice, even if I offered it. But I think whoever the Republicans decide to put up, and whatever Republican decides to get in the race, they should do it. The thing that I know is that we're going to be ready to defend our values. We're going to be ready to defend our principles. We're going to be ready to continue to show Marylanders why having Democratic leadership has been good for the state of Maryland, why we've been able to get big things done together, why we've been able to get big things done with the current administration, with the Biden administration. And I think Marylanders are going to see that level of continuity and that level of cohesion is good for the people of Maryland.
And I've been struck, looking at numbers we've done in terms of CBS News polling, when it comes to Democrats and the reelection of President Biden, that only 55% of Democrats say they want him to run again. 45% don't. I mean, that's almost an even split. A win's a win, but 55-45 suggests it's really close. When we ask those Democrats, the 45% who don't want him to run, why they don't think he should, 86% say it's because of his age, 77% say it's because they want someone new to run. I imagine, I know you're hearing from Democrats who say they want something new, someone younger, someone with fresh ideas and fresh perspective. How do you get Democrats motivated, knowing that he's probably going to be the standard bearer, but the enthusiasm for him isn't necessarily there?
I just remind people why I'm excited to be able to go out there and campaign for him. Just since I've been the governor of Maryland, the president has come to Maryland multiple times. The first time he came to the state, it was to announce a partnership that we were going to be working on for the Frederick Douglass Tunnel, which is going to produce over 30,000 jobs in the state of Maryland, 20,000 of them being construction union jobs. And we have a real partner in the federal government that is helping to make that happen. When we put together really bold goals and targets for offshore wind and for clean energy, I know that the reason that we are going to be able to get to 100% clean energy by 2035 is because we've got a partner inside of Washington that's helping to make it so. And so what I'm excited to share with people is why I know that that I want 4 more years of the kind of partnership that I have right now, because that's going to produce the best results for the people of Maryland.
You just were elected governor. We've talked about this. You've just been in for a little more than 100 days. What do you make of all this chatter that you should already be thinking about running for president?
I don't. I mean, for the past 100 days, we've just had one of the most successful and productive legislative sessions, not of any first-year governor in the state of Maryland, but of any governor in the state of Maryland, full stop, that we've been able to address, real obstacles, like how do you make our state more competitive but also make it more equitable, about how do you focus on public safety and making sure that local law enforcement has what they need, about putting together record investments in public education and creating a service share option. So frankly, I don't, because I'm really focused on making sure that we can be a state that is going to move fast, and this is going to be Maryland's decade, and in partnership, we're going to make it happen.
Okay, so you're taking the keep my head down, do the job, and if people want to talk to me about this again in 4 or 5 years, we can have that conversation approach, which others have taken before too. Yeah. But, there's you, there's Governor Shapiro, just to your north up in Pennsylvania. There's the vice president, should she want to run in 4 years. Is it fair to put people like you on the bench and say that that's potentially who's in the mix for 2028?
No, I don't consider it the bench, right? I'm in the game right now. I think about what we're doing in the state of Maryland, where we are really helping to set the pace.
You did win by 40 points, in part because you're running against as your party calls them, MAGA extremist, Republican who denied reality about the 2020 election, who was elevated in part by fellow Democrats who went out and fiddled in the Republican primary and boosted your opponent. Yeah. Should the Democratic Party keep doing that in gubernatorial, congressional, or presidential elections next year?
Well, I think what happened in our election was that, the reason that we ended up winning with that kind of margin wasn't just because we mobilized Democratic voters, right? I mean, we won Democrats, we won independents, and we won a good chunk of Republicans as well. And so I think that the thing that is going to happen, and I think the thing that we need to continue showing, is you have to be able to be very clear with voters about who you are, about what you stand for, and about how your vision for, in our case, the state, but for other people who are running elsewhere, that you need to be very clear about why your vision best matches theirs. And the truth is that, if it ends up being, what it potentially could end up being in the presidential election, you are literally having the forefather of the MAGA movement who's going to be running on the Republican side. And I look forward to having that debate with, having that debate about why we think that President Biden needs to get another 4 years. Yeah.
Well, Wes Moore, Governor Wes Moore, you've been good to CBS through the years. Keep it up, please, if you don't mind, while you're governor, and we'll talk again soon.
I absolutely will, and thank you so much.
All righty.